Middle management is the place where it's supposed to be the training ground the for middle managers to learn how to be senior leaders. That's what's supposed to happen with middle management. Unfortunately, it's not the case. What tends to happen in middle management, it's we send folks there, and they end up just being go-betweens. And we're going to talk more about in a little while how we want to use middle managers. They're obviously not being used that way, and the vast majority of middle managers are miserable. And currently, what's happening is, and Amazon is an example, they're cutting middle managers all over the place because the way that middle managers tend to be acting right now, and they have been for quite some while, isn't effective, and it's affecting the overall folks who are doing the vast majority of the work. So they are working on culling that. And the reason we're bringing that up is, again, hey, this is small business news. Why are we talking about Amazon? It's one of the number one problems that I deal with my clients is they grow to a certain point, they have too much overhead, and they've hired people to solve problems, but the problems are never solved. They end up trading one issue for another one, which is miscommunication and all sorts of problems. So again, for those who know, I'm a business coach that works out of West Michigan and around the country. I come here live rather consistently every single day as best as I can here in the morning to share some of the information I share with my clients. And I hope to earn your subscription today. So let's get into this here. This is from fortune.com. Go ahead and check out the link. It's going to be in the description there. Again, recommendation that I always have. You can listen to what the talking head on the screen says, but always go read the information yourself. It's super important. Now, this is from Emma Burley. Amazon CEO says he's cutting middle managers because they want to put their fingerprint on everything. And again, that's music to the ears of Gen Z. I cannot overstate that one, just how, as someone who's been a middle manager, when you realize that you are over involving yourself in your team, when you finally have a team member that says, hey, yo, Ryan, you're getting all up in our business, man, give me some room to breathe. Like, okay, you're right. And then on the flip side of that, I've been in the shoes of those frontline employees, like where I've had to talk to my boss, say, hey, stop checking in on me every 5 minutes for updates. I'll get something to you at the end of the day. How does 3 o'clock? You have to manage up because they're constantly coming in to check for information. And there's a whole thing we talk about that I work with my clients and we've mentioned before. So, all right, so let's get into this here. Andy Jassy said that Amazon's middle managers want to put their fingerprint on everything, but haven't always been making the right recommendations. So he's flattening the hierarchy and giving more power to individual contributors while calling all employees back to work. So we're going to talk about their return to office as well. All of these issues all at once. They're just going after them from the beginning. And I have a lot of my clients, they're working through this entire process as well, as far as what is the right mix of working from home and then returning to office for contributions. But we're going to talk about that, putting their fingerprints on everything and how that is a symptom of a greater problem. Now, layoffs are sweeping corporate America, and many middle managers are trying to keep their heads above water, juggling new responsibilities. It's slowing internal processes down and stretching supervisors thin. So Amazon's Andy Jassy is putting more power in the hands of employees doing the work instead of those with sign-off powers. You add a lot of people and you end up with a lot of middle managers, and those middle managers, all well-intended, want to put their fingerprints on. Again, we already talked about that here. So before we get into this, why do we think, and this is one of the issues that we have, why do you think that middle managers have to put their fingerprints on everything? Like, why do you think that's a symptom of what's happening there? And one of the main overarching issues is that when middle managers are translators, what they do is they take the direction and directives from senior leadership, right? And they translate it down into actionable steps and, work and outcomes for their teams. And then they take that information, they retranslate it, and then they send it back up to the leadership. Well, one of the issues is why they have to put their hands on everything is management the senior leadership doesn't always know exactly what they want done. They know something needs to be done, and they put it onto the middle management to figure it out. The middle managers, they're not in the larger conversation, so they're almost always missing one or two nuggets of something. So the processes are never fully vetted at 100%. They're like an 80 percentile. So what that means is they're going to come and they're going to have to wing that 20% with their teams. And fingers crossed that it's going to result in some sort of outcome that is what the senior leadership look like. So that's one of the things I've seen consistently. Whenever you have top-down leadership, that is a huge problem that exists out there, and it's something that we work through with my clients on a consistent basis. And it's one of the reasons why all these businesses are asking people to return to office so that they can get back in that. They miss the habit of being able to just reach out and figuratively touch people to say, I need this done. Just get it done, right? Because they can't immediately get in touch with them. All right, anyways, back to this. So you end up with these people being in the pre-meeting, for the pre-meeting, for the pre-meeting, and for the decision meeting, and not always making recommendations and owning things in the way we want that type of ownership, right? There's when I was in the military, we had this, it was early in my career, we had a scheduling meeting that we would do, which was, there was a meeting to go over the schedule. And I had one of my airmen, he was going up to this thing consistent, and he was gone for like 4 hours. And I'm like, what in the world is taking so long for a scheduling meeting? It shouldn't be 4 hours. That's like at most a 40-minute, meeting, which is simply just, hey, I need these resources. I need these people. Let's coordinate to make sure that I can get this. Again, I was working with munitions moms. I need to get a forklift here. I need a couple people here. I need some people to sign off this, right? It's just meant a coordination meeting. Well, what I found out was because of the way they were, the middle managers were micromanaging everything. This 4-hour meeting, they were having discussions about fonts and the sizes of basically the font size, whether the stuff needed to be left aligned, center aligned, justified, like the color coding. Like, this is the crap that my guy was spending time on instead of doing work. So when I found out about this, I went to the next meeting and I blew the thing up, and I ended up taking ownership. Long story short but this is what they're talking about. To make sure that they're worrying about the wrong stuff. Like, they're going about it the wrong way, and they just needed someone to come in and, hey, it's okay if we make decisions on this stuff. All right, and that's the issue with the middle managers. Now this, what we got here, man, this is, sorry about that. Going live here, folks. We're going to have this. Now, this isn't the first time that a CEO of the $2.3 trillion tech, man, that's amazing. $2.3 trillion tech giant has said that he's flattening the company's hierarchy. He just revealed that Amazon is well ahead of schedule. Last September, Amazon veterans said that he wanted to increase the ratio of individual contributors to managers by at least 15% by the end of Q1 2025. Now he said that Amazon already beat that marker, and this change will free up mobility and put the onus on more individual employees. It's going to allow us, for the people who are doing the work, they're going to have more ownership, and they're going to be able to move more quickly, which, ladies and gentlemen, is those of you who are watching who are in, frontline employees that are doing the actual work, it's super. I mean, when you know exactly what you're supposed to do, here's what I have to deliver on, this is what I have to get to, and you don't have to constantly be checking in with 1, 2, 3, 4 different managers who are asking for updates on this or that. Work is just so much more peaceful. It really is. Your work is still going to be stressful, and it's still work. Don't get me wrong. That's why it's got that name. But to be able to just say, hey, here's clearly what I need to get done, and then people just get out of your way, that's what we're looking for. I mean, almost all of us. That would just be so great. All right. Now, by doing so, the future of Amazon will have fewer bosses, and employees will be expected to manage themselves and drive togetherness in the organization. A huge part of that company culture for Jassy includes the strict 5-day RTO mandate, which is everyone will be in the office. So that's going to be, again, that's going to result, and this is what I talk with my clients on. If you want people in the office, you are going to lose 30 to 40% of the people who are currently working with you. Like, that's going to happen. But the people who come back, they're going to be hired in with the expectation set that it's 5 days a week in the office. Like, that's what you have. And unfortunately, that turnover is going to have to take place. But they want people back in the office for many reasons, but mostly is if you want to have people who are going to be self-managing, they need to have others around so that they can, as they are making decisions on how to manage these things, you need to have ready access to everyone because you're managing resources. That's one of the they don't know how to articulate that correctly, but that's really what it comes down to. There's resource management that takes place specifically as you move and decentralize your decision making. More resource management is required, and it requires people to be around. So that's one of the reasons why RTO is happening. All right. So with this, Jassy might be giving more power to workers, fewer supervisors, individual focus improvements, but employees still have to bend the knee to RTO. I don't really necessarily like that phrase. That's what the job is. I understand bending the knee to return to, and you know where I'm at. And for the longtime viewers of Small Business News, you know where I'm at when it comes to RTO. Like, there's good RTO that is required, and there's other RTO that, hey, it is what it is. Working from home works for a lot of businesses. It's okay, but other businesses, it's not going to be the case. Now, despite Amazon employees rage applying to other jobs, which we've talked about in the face of the mandate, reporting strong dissatisfaction in a survey and sending a strongly worded letter to Amazon Web Services chief, company isn't backing down. They've made the decision. This is what it is. And, they feel confident that if they have this, that there's going to be support for it. End of the day, they're going to find the people who want to work there. They're willing to take their time on it. And again, the reason I'm bringing this up is for business owners who are watching, who are looking at this. If this is what you want and this is how you want your business structure, you need to understand you're going to lose people. But then you're going to hire in people that are going to be the folks that you need to have there, okay? And that's just what it is. If there are people who don't want to work well in that environment and don't want to, that's okay. Again, there's other companies. Is exactly what AWS CEO Matt Garman said during an Amazon all hands meeting last November, according to Reuters, excuse me. When we want to really innovate in products, I have not seen the inability for us to do that when we're not in person, and that's what they want to be able to get after. Amazon's RTO isn't popular. Amazon's managerial decoupling and increased employee autonomy is exactly what Gen Z is looking for, which is what we were talking about here, which is the idea here. This is Gen Z, let us run, let us do our thing, right? I'm saying us figuratively, not that I'm Gen Z. I'm not. Middle management is no longer in vogue, 100%. It's never been in vogue. It's always been a necessary evil for companies that when they grow too much, they need folks to oversee and manage, because they don't have their processes figured out. Amazon knows what they need to. They've been doing this enough. They know what the work needs to be. So they don't need as many middle managers. All right. Don't really want to get into what buyer's doing here. All right. It's exactly what Gen Z wants. This is the piece I wanted. No bosses and burnout. A flattened hierarchy and the prospect of fewer middle management roles to grow into could actually entice rather than put off the bright young minds of tomorrow. And that's one of the pieces. Because about 52 Gen Zers said they'd rather not be middle managers, according to the 2025 survey from recruiting company Robert Walters. And 72% of these young employees said they'd rather take an individual route to progression than supervise other people. Part of their aversion to managing likely stems from the intense burnout they witness among their bosses, stretched thin by lack of support, constant company changes, and reduced well-being. And again, what I want to cover in this part here is how they're using middle managers wrong. And that's where you see this burnout happening. Again, feel free to go check out the rest of the article there. It's a good read. It's stuff we've covered, but a lot of it we've covered before. But I wanted to bring this up as an example because I have clients that I'm currently working with this who are looking at eliminating all of their middle management position. And I'm trying to just kind of slow them down some on that. The reason being is that they use their middle managers correctly in my companies. They're meant to be a training ground for their senior leaders. You have to go through, they need practice supervising. They need practice having the discussions and motivating and correcting and inspiring people, and also putting the praise out there in the correct way for folks when they're doing awesome work. You have to get your reps in what I like to call as a safe environment, which is when you are, first line employees and supervisors. Like, that's where you want to make sure you can get your reps for practicing being in leadership. Because as you move up, especially as these are flattened hierarchies are going to become more and more a thing now that we are going through. For many companies, this is the first time they're going through what is going to be an actual real recession. And I hate to throw that R word around there because it's self-fulfilling, but this is going to be the first time a lot of businesses are going through this. They're not used to having a reduction in ready capital and uncertainty on revenues over the long term, which is what we're looking at right now. So they are used to being able to afford managers and middle managers to handle these things. They can't do that now. But you still need to have a way to train your managers. Training is one of the most important things, and middle management is where you get your reps. And so that's when I'm talking to my clients. It's like, listen, you still need to find a way to have a team lead. You need a team lead is fine. Have a team lead. You need to have one of those. Do you need an office manager? Yes. In most cases, yes. Okay, the team leads report to the office manager, and you can stop there. Then up to that, it's either to the boss or to whatever would be the whoever's like operations manager, whatever that happens to be. But it's okay to have one middle manager or two within your organization, if you can afford it. But for most, you need to have middle managers for training, period, dot. And that's the issue. Companies have been misusing their middle managers. They've been using them as a stopgap for poor processes, poor insight, and poor leadership from the senior leaders in the company. That's been the main issue. And when I start working with companies, that's one of the first things we spend time identifying and working through is, okay, I get it now. We need to have a long, hard look at your processes and your leadership style and your expectation for your folks. And once we have that, a lot of the stress that was on those middle managers tends to fall away. And what ends up happening with those middle managers, now they have the ability to practice management, not firefighting, not constantly having to translate what some again, owner, VP, whatever happens to be, where they don't, I've got to figure out how to make this work, because they don't know what they want. They just know they need something done. And then they are trying to figure it out on the fly, which stresses everyone out, and they're worried about getting fired. So these are all the things that go away when you work as a team to figure out at the leadership stop. But anyways, enough about that there. Again, this is the type of stuff that my clients and we are constantly talking about, what the right mix needs to look like, what the direction, what the development needs to be for these middle managers and for the leadership teams and for the staff, to try to mitigate as much of the stress as possible, because it's everywhere, right? So with that, again, if you'd like to learn more about how I help businesses grow faster than I ever thought possible, be sure to check out summitbusinessguides.com. There's a link in the description there. And hopefully I earned your subscription today. As I mentioned before, I come live here pretty consistently. I have a little bit early today. I didn't announce it at the beginning, but I am working with my local Chamber of Commerce here. I have some basically classes I'm going to be teaching later this morning, so I had to come a little bit earlier than I normally do. But yeah, you can usually find me here. So again, hopefully I earned your subscription.